Hello lovelies, welcome to my channel. My name is Jay Culture. In today's class, we're going to learn how to draft the basic bodice. Firstly, let me give us an overview of what the bodice is about. The bodice starts from the shoulder and ends at the waist. The waist, which is the navel area, that's the bodice. And the measurements we're going to use for drafting the bodice: the bust 39, nipple distance or bust span 8 inches, bust point or bust depth 10 inches, waist circumference 33 inches, waist, that's the full length, is 18 inches, the shoulder length is 15 inches. Firstly, what I do, I draw out my guideline. The reason why I draw out my guideline, because most of those pattern paper, they are not straight. So I draw out my guideline, and it also serves as my shoulder line. I'm also going to do at the side, and it's going to serve as the center front. Please note that the paper is not on fold, so when you are done drafting your pattern, you transfer it on your fabric on fold. Make sure your fabric is on fold. Now I'm going to put down the measurement. The full length is 18 inches. Then I'm going to mark the chest line. To get your chest line, you divide your bust by 6, then you add 1.5 inches. The bust is 39, divide by 6 will give us 6.5, plus 1.5 inches will give us 8 inches. So I'm going to mark 8 inches here. Our bust depth is 10 inches. I'm just going to extend it so that we'll have a straight line. Then I'm going to rule out. Okay, having done that, we're going to take the shoulder measurement. The shoulder measurement is 15. Divide by 2 will give us 7.5. I'll add half an inch for sewing seam allowance. I like to add my sewing seam allowance on my pattern so that I do not forget it when I transfer it to my fabric. I'm just going to connect. To get the neck measurement, the standard measurement is 3 by 3. 3 by 3 here and 3 here. So I'm going to connect with my curve ruler. So I'm going to come here by 1 inch to get a slope line. Normally I do use 1.5 inch for personal use, but you can still use 1 inch or 1.5 inch, depend on what you want to achieve, and also depend on the body type of the client. So I'm going to connect it to the neck. Now I'm going to mark the midpoint of the armhole depth. I'm going to take in by 3/4. This place also varies. For small sizes, you take 1 inch or 3/4 inch. For larger size, you take half an inch. So this intake of the excesses around the armhole varies too. Okay. Then I'm going to take the bust measurement, which is 39. 39 divided by 4 will give us 9¾ inch. 9¾ inches rather. Yeah, I'm going to connect it. I'll make sure it connects with this, with the mid area and the bust area. Now I'm going to take the waist measurement. The measurement of the waist is 33. 33 divided by 4 will give us 8¼ So I'm going to mark 8¼ here. I'm going to connect it to the chest line. Now we're going to mark our bust span. Our bust span is 8 inches. Divide by 2 will give us 4 inches. I'll take it down to the waistline, 4 here. Then we'll connect it. Now we're going to take our dart intake. To get your dart intake, you minus the bust from the waist. Our bust here is 39 minus waist will give us 6 inches. We'll divide it by 2, which will have 3 inches. So we have 3 inches as our dart intake. On the bust span line, we're going to take in by half an inch here. Then we'll take in 2.5 inches at the other side to make it 3 inches. Then we'll connect it to the bust line. Having done that, we're going to replace the dart intake we took to complete our measurement, which is 3 inches. Then we'll connect it to the chest line. Now, if we want to take in our darts or we want to sew our darts, we'll come by this bust line. We'll take it down by 1 inch. Okay, you take it down by 1 inch to sew your dart intake. You take it down by 1 inch. Then you connect again so that you do not forget it. So when you sew your darts, it will end at just 1 inch away from the bust line. It also varies for body types. For large body types, make sure you come down by 1.5 or 1.25 inches, depend on the body type. For smaller body type, you use 1 inch. Make sure your dart intake ends at 1 inch and not on the bust line, okay, so that it doesn't bulge out and it now makes it look like your nipple is around that area. That's why we try not to sew above this 1 inch point. Okay, now we're going to add our sewing seam allowance. I like to add my sewing seam allowance, like I told you before, on my pattern paper before transferring it to my fabric. So I'm going to add 1 inch at the waistline, and I'm going to add 2 inches at the side. You can decide to add more than 2 inches. You can make it 1.5. You can make it 1 inch, depend on your client and what you also want to achieve. Then I'm going to connect. We are done with our front bodice. So this one helps me when I transfer it to my fabric, because I don't get to forget that I've not added my sewing seam allowance. So this is all we have. I'm going to extend the dart leg. Before I cut, I'm just going to make sure that I'm not lacking any shortage of measurements. So this is what I do before I cut. After masking it, I'm going to rule. I'll connect it again before I cut out. So now I'm going to cut out. Here we have our front bodice ready. This is how our front bodice is going to look like. When you are done taking out the dart excesses, you can decide to trim off whatever excesses you have at the waist area. So that's all for the front bodice.